Welcome back to the Pursuit of Accuracy. I'm Josh, and today we're here to do a review on the Zermatt Arms Rimx. And yes, I have done this video before, but now I am coming to you with 3 Rimx's worth of information, several Voodoo shooting experiences, Bergara, CZ, and shoots the Gambit, and I want to touch on the strengths and weaknesses of this Rimx rifle and what sets it apart from the others. Now, give me about 2 weeks and we're going to do a Voodoo versus Rimx head-to-head comparison where we go really in depth on these two rifles. But for now, we're just going to be talking about the Rimx. So before you, in all its glory, you see a Modicam custom Zermatt Arms Rimx. This is a Krieger 1.250 barrel. It does have a Timney hit. We are running the tracked optic, and this is the exact setup that I took with me to the NRL 22 Nationals last week, and I was able to finish 11th out of about 230, 240 shooters. So obviously it's a performer, but don't take my word for it. Let's get on the 100-yard KYL and let's see how this rifle does. So now that we're on the ladder with this, don't judge it too harshly because it's a lot me and not the rifle. We are shooting off a ladder at 100 yards at a KYL rack. So keep that in mind, but this rifle has performed. So back on the bench, let's first talk about the pros of a Zermatt Arms Rimx, and then we're gonna talk about the stuff that's not so good. So pro number 1, action to action. I've owned 3 of these. These are just super consistent actions. And as you can tell here, the bolt lift and close, just very smooth, and that's been my experience across all of them. I have never felt a Rimx has had a crappy action, and this is safe and clear. We're gonna go ahead and dry fire it, and I recommend you do not do that with a Rimx. But to demonstrate here, look how easy this bolt lift is on cock. I mean, that is super easy, and you can see from what we ran on the bench and on the ladder that this thing just runs like a Swiss watch. It has absolutely no problems. So big plus number 1 is they are very consistent, and because of that you are able to do some things that you're not able to do with other 700 clone rimfire actions, and one of those is buy a pre-fit barrel. Now this is not a pre-fit barrel. This was spun up by Jonathan at Modicam Custom Rifles. This is a Krieger, but you can buy a pre-fit because the action tolerances are so tight, and the Zermatt Arms Rimx is probably the only 22 action you're going to be able to do that for. Just buy a pre-fit, spin it on, and have really good results. So that is a big plus if you like to tinker with things or you're not wanting to go the custom gunsmith route. Now, big pro number 2 is going to be this guy right here, and that is the magazine. It comes with a 10 round mag. You can see here I've added an extension to this, and both the factory 10 round and the one with the extension just run. They work all the time. They are not picky. They are staggered, and you can just drop rounds in it and you never have any issues with these at all. And they're built like a tank. Billet, adjustable mag catch. I mean, I wish every 700 clone used these, because these magazines are probably my favorite part about this entire setup. So huge plus, the magazines are just freaking great. Now, of course, with anything, there are always gonna be pitfalls, Achilles heels, downsides, negatives, whatever you want to call it. There are always some sort of give and take when it comes to these. And for as reliable as these are, if you look, there's a slightly miscolored spot there. Hopefully you can see it on camera, but that is the extractor, and it is fixed to this bolt head. Now that's going to be very reliable for extracting things when things are working normally, but there are some cases where this is maybe not the best thing. So there is something that we call a push feed, and I'll try and explain that as best as I can, but you have your magazine and you have ammunition in it, and your bolt rides across the top of these feed lips. And what it does is it pushes this forward, and as it clears there, you can see it, well, you could almost see it. The round jumps in to the bolt face. It fires it, and then it pulls it out and extracts it that way. There are, on occasion, times when you're going to get this round in front of this bolt face, and that is what we call a push feed. And in that case, you're going to feel a lot more pressure on this bolt. Now, luckily, these are very soft closing bolts, and you're going to get about to right here on the bolt close, and you're going to feel a lot of pressure. Now, if you decide to be Hulk and just hammer that thing down, then you are going to break that extractor, and you're going to fire it, but when you go pull back on the bolt, that empty cartridge is not coming out. And even if you catch it beforehand and you push feed it and you don't close, you come back, that round is going to stay in the chamber, and there's no way for you to close on it to fire and extract it. So there are some tools you can see here. I picked one of these guys up from A&J Sporting, super good people. This is called the extractor. I put some magnets on mine so that I could stick it right here on the gun in case I needed it, and I have used it once. It works very well. I cleared a push feed in about 4 or 5 seconds on the clock at Nationals and didn't have an issue. So there are workarounds, but it is something to consider, because alternatively, a Voodoo, the extractor is sprung. So even if you push feed, it will still close on it. You can fire, you can still extract it. Or if you needed, for whatever reason, to single feed a Voodoo, you could do that and fire it. You are absolutely not going to do that on the Zermatt Arms Rimx. Now, I have found proper magazine setup and proper maintenance, and I mean cleaning, just not letting this thing get absolutely full of crud, is going to prevent that. I ran this 3 days at Nationals in 110 degrees real feel, several hundred rounds, dirt, sweat, water, everything, rain, wind, and really didn't have any issues except for the one push feed, and I think I short stroked it. You'll hear Rimx guys talk about that, where you're going to come back, you don't come back all the way, and then you kind of push that round out of the mag feed lips without the bolt being in the right position. But it is a big negative to consider in comparison. So obviously the give and take there is, some give and take. So
impact.
Attaboy.
Good run. 26 seconds remaining.
negative number 2, and this is going to be subjective. The Rimx action is pickier on triggers. Now, the other 700 clones, if you buy a 700 action trigger, you can stick it in and it's going to work. You're not going to have a problem, outside of maybe very rare cases that I'm not aware of. Now, on the Rimx, it does want a low sear height. So it is going to be pickier on triggers. I am running the Timney Hit. Great success out of that. You can run the Bixen Andy with a low sear height. That's going to work really well, but maybe you run a trigger that you really like. You run in all your rifles. You might need to call Zermatt Arms and ask them about that trigger and its action before you buy it, because I'd hate for you to buy the action, have a trigger that you only use across the board, and then find out it's not going to work that great. Because what can happen is if you get something with too much sear height, it may drag on that bolt. So you're going to have too much engagement. It's going to cause light strikes and just not going to be as accurate as it could be, because with 22, you need that really clean pinfall with lots of energy, and you need to do it consistently. And that interfaces between the trigger and the bolt. So it's very, very important in 22 long rifle, and something to consider. Now, like I said, the triggers I run, they work absolutely fantastic in this action without any problem, but maybe you run something else that won't, so it is definitely worth checking out. But overall, with this action, this rifle, this setup, I am extremely happy. And if you're wondering whether I would pick this over a Voodoo V22 or 360, well, you're gonna have to wait about 2 weeks to find that out, because I will have a dedicated video coming out about the Zermatt Arms versus the Voodoo, and we are going to get very nerdy with the 22s, and I'm going to go into great detail about the Voodoo action versus the Rimx action, where they stand against each other, and ultimately let you know which action I would go with and why. Be on the lookout for that video. I appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you on the next one.